Okay, so I'll call this meeting of the Summit Waller Community Association to order for Tuesday, January 4 at 7 p.m. And the first order is the meeting minutes, and John's not here. Did anybody have any amendments to it that they hadn't already submitted to John?
I move that we adopt or approve the minutes from the December 7th, 2021 Zoom board meeting.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. We adopt the board meeting minutes as presented for December. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. And then the treasurer's report. Do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
I move that we,
Okay, so moved by Gabe and seconded by Larry that we accept the treasurer's report. All in favor?
Aye.
And again, accepted unanimously. Anything to report, Gabe, on your end?
Nope, it's been a straightforward month. I did reach out to Reed really just before the meeting about the PayPal options. That's really all there is. Right
Okay.
now.
And we did get one inquiry through the website about assistance with getting a neighborhood watch organized. And I referred that person to, there is a contact email address with the County Sheriff's Department. There's also a phone number for the Safe Streets program. And also suggested that if he doesn't get a response from either of those, possibly contacting Marty Campbell's office, because if the Sheriff's Department's not supporting it, and it would seem like it would be a worthwhile program, that maybe the county council might be able to prod the Sheriff's Department through the budget process to actually support those programs in the county. So that was my response to them. And on to current business, Orange Gate Park. Larry only volunteered 5 hours. Was it a little bit nasty out this past month, Larry?
it was weather related, not able to do much.
Okay. Now, the
Also, I
other
wanna
thing
remind-
that, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I'd like to just remind the board that it is January and that start of a new year, and as being good examples to the rest of the community association membership, I would encourage board members to re-up on their supporting membership sometime this month.
Okay. And Gabe, could you let me screen share, please? And let's see. Seems like there's something that I need to click on as well, is there?
At the bottom should be share screen now.
Ah, there we go. Okay. And yeah, share my desktop. Come on. And okay, this is what we received from the county parks. It's pretty much a boilerplate kind of a thing. We can, make some changes in regard to kind of activities. So it starts with some real basics, the kinds of things that we could do, but like it says, it's not limited to enhancement, picking up litter like Larry's already doing. One of the things that gets mentioned later on is pulling weeds. I don't think we're going to be pulling weeds in the park. There are too many of them, but just sort of doing some real basic maintenance things to keep it cleaned up. Potentially doing some noxious weed removal. If staff is there with any activities, we could be there to help and support them. Some basic requirements, if you're in there by yourself, being over 18, they have an orientation. I'll have to find out what that involves. They do want a minimum of 25 hours or more a year, which is pretty easy to do. They want a log of the hours so that they can keep track of all that. And that's part of their reporting on their own programs. And a description for the stewardship program. Volunteer hours for a group, 1 hour by a group is 1 hour service for the entire group. So I'll have to get a little bit of definition is if that's 1 hour per person. So if you had 5 people doing 4 hours of work, is that 20 hours or is that 4 hours?
20 hours.
But again, you know, the specific kinds of duties they list here that you could do, and we could certainly add on to those things. A repeat of the basic qualifications, a couple of important things, the ability to maintain a positive working relationship with staff, volunteers, donors, and community members. And then it's good to have an interest in these things. I don't imagine that you would be doing these things if you weren't, or volunteering if you weren't interested in those things. And then a little bit deeper into the eligibility, who can do this. If we were to have outside groups come in and host those outside groups, then there would be a background check involved for us so that the county isn't putting itself in danger if somebody is a felon and has done, had sexual predator issues in the past. Those sort of people would be disqualified from participating. So the county is just making sure that the volunteers are safe. That's the purpose of all this. Again, another safety thing, dress code, and restrictions on the kind of work that you do. Some of this is very similar to what I've seen in my volunteer work with Washington Trails. The clothing, for instance, closed toe, flat heeled shoes, preferably boots that support the ankles. You're wearing gloves, long pants. I've actually seen people show up for trail work in like Tevas, and it's like, sorry, you got to go home. Yeah, that's just not safe. And then the restrictions on the work, you need to be registered with the park so that they know who's doing the work. No power tools. Basically, we're not using chainsaws if we're working under the guise of the parks. We're not doing any chemical applications. That applies to non-invasive or invasive non-native species. And we can't drive the county truck or operate the county backhoe, unfortunately. Standards and ethics. You don't drink while you're out doing it. You don't sexually harass anybody else. You don't steal things. And here's one that would probably keep certain members of our community from participating. Hostile, aggressive, or threatening words, actions, or behaviors directed toward another volunteer, employee, or members of the public will get you booted or keep you from participating. No discriminatory actions. And then some other limitations, like you can't use county resources, you don't smoke. I doubt we'd have any access to confidential information. Don't do any religious or partisan activities while you're doing this work. We have to obey all the laws, regulations, codes, and we cannot receive any compensation for what we do except for thank you. A little bit deeper into the scope of the work. Again, I don't think we're pulling weeds. We aren't going to have any flower beds over there that I know of. We might help with putting down some new bark or mulch in some certain places. Certainly, one of the things I've thought about is the noxious plants. There's all kinds of holly in there that doesn't belong. Larry's picking up litter and debris and a few other things. I was looking at this and thinking one of them can just be park monitoring, just going for a walk in the park, maybe farther in areas where maybe Larry hasn't covered, just to make sure that everything's okay, that nobody's been in there doing things they shouldn't, that the trails are in good shape, that we don't have places overgrown with brush that need to be cut back, just sort of making sure everything's okay. And some general safety concerns, stinging insects, hypothermia, hyperthermia. Big one is slip, trips, falls, making sure that whatever you're doing, that your feet are solid on the ground. Not handling hazardous wastes. If you see anything, notify the park department and they can handle it. And if you see homeless encampments, report it. Again, a lot of this is very similar to what we would go through with our WTA safety briefs before we even start our work day, just reviewing what we need to do to keep ourselves safe and not get anybody hurt, because our 3 rules are be safe, have fun, and then get some work done. Some other safety tips, some which would apply, some which really wouldn't. One of them certainly would be not overfilling any kind of waste bags that you would be using. Respecting private property should be easier because the county's been trying to move some of the trails away from private property and blocking off those trails that had been created. And then if something happens, you witness an emergency situation or you're involved with one, calling 911, which for us is pretty easy because fire department's just down the street. And contact numbers. Then we have the agreement forms. This is for an individual. And then the group one, which is pretty similar. Just fill in the name of our group. We're agreeing that we'll be an agent of the park, or we would never represent ourselves as an agent or employee of the parks, only that we're doing volunteer work for the parks. That we won't make any capital improvements or modifications without permission. Again, no chemical applications, no power tools, no solicitations of a political nature, at least 25 hours, background checks if necessary. And as long as we're doing if we do something as a group, as long as the only people participating are members of our organization, we don't have to worry about a background check, or if we're doing it as part of a supervised parks program, we don't have to worry about background checks. And then again, the behavior standards that were mentioned earlier in the packet. Group manager, when we're doing things, one of the items is the volunteer agreements, waivers. A little farther in, there's going to be the basically a hold harmless agreement that everybody who's going to be doing this work has to sign. If you're over 16 or under 16, you have to be accompanied by a parent or guardian, proper record keeping, annual report. Apparently, it also goes Department of Labor and Industries. Some other reporting requirements. And then this is one that I will ask the county about. It's part of the hold harmless agreement that we won't hold the county responsible. Nobody in our party would hold them responsible if anything bad happened. I would want to make sure that we would also be covered in such a way somehow so that if something happened, somebody wouldn't sue our organization. And then either party can terminate for any reason at any time. And then the rules of the Parks Department and their responsibilities. And if we're out doing something, we give the Parks Department permission to take photos or videos for activities for publicity purposes, and we can't be compensated. And then signatories. Background check if we need to do it. And the liability waiver for the group saying that it's a hold harmless. So that is, yep, that's the extent. So let's see.
Bob, do you know if we'd have to fill out those forms for every single event that would occur out there, or every time Larry goes out there, or is it just one time?
I would think it would just be one time. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Just trying to figure out how to get my screen back to the right size. I know at WTA, we have it now to where we just sign off once a year. And I would think that probably we could do the same thing where once you've filled out that form once, we keep it on file and it's good for that calendar year. But that would be a question to ask.
Yeah, okay.
So when my church
Bob?
does the service Saturdays
Yeah,
and they go and help Larry clean up the park, is that
Yeah.
something that's private or public, or do we need to
I
get
think
background
that
check
would be
for that?
open to the public, and we'd probably need to have Larry fill out one of the background checks, but that, your organization in particular is the one I was thinking about, and how we could get them involved. You know, depending upon how complicated it is, potentially your church group could have its own agreement.
Okay.
But yeah, we could certainly, I'll ask that as far as your group in particular, and what we need.
Okay.
Let's see.
Bob, how
Yeah.
about the power equipment thing?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that applies to gas-powered power equipment.
Yep.
Does that also apply to battery-powered
Yes.
equipment?
Any powered equipment. Think about it, well, I'm used to thinking about it as in wilderness areas. The federal law says for wilderness, you can't use mechanical devices. And so that's, powered equipment. I believe that's also, taking stuff in with wheeled carts. You got to carry stuff in, or you have to have pack animals. But with us, the power equipment, it wouldn't matter the source of the power, just that it is power equipment. So yeah, they don't want you using chainsaws, because chainsaws are a high liability item. And so if you're working as a volunteer for the Parks Department and you're using power equipment, and you slice into your leg and cut an artery, that's bad for the county. So that's
Well,
why
I brought that up because I use a battery-powered weed whacker to weed whack around the entrances to various trailheads, which the county will not do. And along the ecology blocks along 84th Street, which the Parks Department will not do. Is that, I'm assuming from what you said.
I'll ask about that, and that might be one of those where they just kind of go, because a battery powered trimmer is not going to have the kind of power and potential for damaging somebody outside of maybe throwing a rock. As long as you have some sort of eye protection, you should be okay with it.
Okay.
And let's see. And trying to take notes. Angela, you were asking about,
Sorry. I was asking about if we needed to fill out forms
oh yeah, that's
for
right.
every event, or is it annual, or when you're new and you show up to
Yeah.
for your first time or whatever. So the only entity that's allowed to use power tools is the county, is that correct?
Yeah,
Huh.
and they might say that, they might say no on the string trimmers, the electric string trimmers, but
Mhm.
um,
I mean, I understand why they say that, to minimize their liability, but
yeah,
come on, I'm not gonna be hand clipping weeds with like hand clippers, I
no,
mean,
no, not out
it's just,
there.
there's, sometimes you just have to use something that's gonna get the job done a lot faster and easier,
Yeah,
so.
and I think their concern is more towards the gas-powered things or anything like a chainsaw that can do, real serious damage real fast.
Mhm.
But,
As you know, Bob, Pierce County Parks will respond to some big trees over
mhm,
trails. We can take care of smaller trees over trails with hand saws, I guess, buck saws. But the Pierce County Parks does not come through and deal with the overgrowth in the spring that starts to creep in on the trails. That's where you need to have a string trimmer, and you
Yep.
need to have a hedge clippers as hedge clippers as well. They're all battery powered.
yeah, and I can ask about that. Don?
Yeah, if one goes in there as a private individual, I can take my chainsaw in there and do up to the point of getting caught and told to leave.
And
As an
potentially more, probably not, but potentially more, because you're not authorized to be doing those kind of activities.
Well, that's true, but as an individual, I can take my chance in going in there and trying to improve a situation that they're not getting to.
You can, but I would encourage you to give them an opportunity, like the time that there was a large tree that came down and Larry and I swamped it all out. And the next day, a couple of guys from the county were out there to cut it up and get the log out of the way.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I do not disagree with you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, short of having a county sheriff's deputy there 24 hours a day, there's no way to prevent people from going in there and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We know that's happening right now, just in a different form.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's a couple of paragraphs in there that if such and such situation occurs, notify your recreation coordinator immediately. For
Yeah.
example, one of the issues was reporting a dog off leash. Well,
mhm,
I mean, that's a dog chasing its tail. You're never going to get a response in a timely order to be an issue. That dog owner is going to be gone.
yeah,
And the other thing that I don't like is, or I take disagreement, neither the county or Parks and Recreation or Humane Society does not have an enforcement officer on staff. They leave it to the sheriff. And
mhm.
we know what that, so you're chasing your tail trying to get a response to something that may or may not happen.
Well, and I think the nature of Orange Gate's a bit different from some of their other parks. And since this is a boilerplate document to cover all of their parks. There might be other parks where a dog running off leash and creating a disturbance, you might be able to call 911 and get a response. A dog running off leash in Orange Gate, short of attacking people, is probably not going to get a response because, among other things, it's going to be difficult to find that person. If you're out at Frontier Park, depending upon where they are, that could be a different situation. But again, it's really boilerplate, and so you kind of have to use good judgment with what's really worth reporting and what isn't. If it's something that puts people in danger, yeah, I'd report it. If not,
No, I agree
Depends.
with you. I'm just saying they got you rules that they got rules, and then there's real life.
yeah, well, that's being a cop too.
Yeah.
You know, they aren't stopping everybody that's driving over the speed limit.
Okay, carry on.
So,
Bob, I had another question.
yeah,
So I'm looking under the specific duties where it says pull weeds, maintain flower beds,
Uh-huh.
mulch, bark, etc., whatever. So because Orange Gate is the way it is today, and it's going to look different in the future
Mhm.
with the new amenities that are going to be going in, is the expectation that this stewardship agreement is really aimed at supplemental maintenance to what the park is already doing? Because the Pierce County Parks is already maintaining the flower beds, picking up trash, and those sorts of things. This is really meant to be supplemental work, correct? We're not
Yes.
essentially taking over the maintenance of the park. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the park
No, the-
crews can get out there to do big projects and to do some annual projects and such, but they aren't going to necessarily be out there every day or even
Right.
every week.
Oh, yeah. No, my expectation is very low of what kind of effort
Yeah.
that they'll put into the new park just because of staffing and,
Yeah.
resources. But
Well,
I
even
wanted-
the time expectation, 25 hours a year, is pretty low.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a very supplemental thing, or if there's a special project that a group wanted to do.
Got it. Thank you.
Bob, I have a question.
Yeah,
With the group stewardship commitment, there is a stewardship manager. Are we assuming somebody on our board is going to be the stewardship manager? Because if you're looking at me, I will not be your stewardship manager. It's a younger person's kind of job. As I look through what the stewardship manager's duties and responsibilities are, it's more than what I would like to take on. And I've reached a point in my life where other things are starting to become more important than even Orange Gate.
yeah. Oh, no, understandable. And I wasn't thinking of putting it onto you, but my impression was more keeping the records of volunteer hours from volunteers and what's been done. And then also if we did, one or two projects a year where we brought in, say, church group, or if we appealed to people in the community and worked with the Parks Service or Parks Department. Although if we did something that was truly opened up to the Parks Department, I think I would be working with them to be the lead on it. And then we would just be a sponsoring organization, so that would make it, we would have less of an onerous job in doing things. We wouldn't have to worry so much about the background checks and all if the Parks Department is the lead agency on it. But yeah, I definitely want to do this so that it's the least amount of responsibility possible while still, fulfilling some of the basics that they want.
Okay.
So unless anybody has any other questions, yeah, Gabe.
Okay, so one of the other things, it's also seems like we can, as a group, apply for stewardship, but individual people in the public can do so as well.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
it's not- so we're just talking about our concern with us as a group and how, and our efforts in heading that part up, and then maybe Jen's church group does the same thing for their own group, and
Mhm.
then they manage the individual volunteers they
yeah,
have.
they
going.
could certainly do that. And I don't see why we couldn't cooperate, if we did that, why we couldn't cooperatively both show up on a particular day to do a project.
Right.
Because my reading of this tells me that there's certainly no limit to the number of individuals or groups who could sign up as stewards. Recently, I was doing a work party at a Metro Park site over in Northeast Tacoma. And one of our volunteers is the steward for that particular park with Metro Parks as an individual. So I'm sure that that's something that could be done with the county parks as well. I don't know if they have anybody like that. Okay. So I will contact the Parks Department and set up a time to chat with them about these various questions and where we go from here. And looking down the agenda.
I'm assuming, Bob, that this topic will be on next month's agenda.
Yeah, I'll come back with more information next month. So the next thing, I thought I'd put on here the code enforcement complaint to find out, Angela, if you've received any notification from the county on actions. Dawn, if you've seen anything going on. Or if it's been quiet.
It's been quiet. I've seen a couple of trucks in there, but I think they were just moving equipment in or out. There was no physical activity beyond that.
Okay. And Angela, did you ever receive an automated email from the county that would provide a link to the page where they have the report and the list of actions taken?
I'm looking now, I don't recall, usually when you file a code enforcement complaint, you don't get any notifications until some sort of action is taken, like it was assigned to someone, or it was the staff visited the site to confirm the violation, et cetera, et cetera. I think I got confirmation that it was assigned to somebody. And I think that's all I've seen since then, but I'm gonna double check here while you guys are chatting amongst
Okay.
yourselves, so.
Gabe, is my desktop still being shared or did that get fixed?
I fixed that.
Okay, thanks. Okay. And then moving down, yeah, Don?
Okay, as far as code violations, there was a trucking facility, I believe it was on 96th out towards Vickery last year or so, that somebody was and is still storing semi truck and trailers in their backyard.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure Angela knows which property I'm talking about. Code violations doesn't seem to be on the county's priority list for
Okay.
land use.
That's 84th and Waller. I think you're talking about, like a property just behind the house there.
Oh, If
There
that's
used
the
to be an
property you're
RV
talking
place.
about. Yeah, if that's the property you're talking about, that's grandfathered in years ago.
No, not the one by the church and
No.
the old RV place. Is that what you're talking about, Larry?
That's the one that Gabe is referring to.
Yeah, that's what I thought
It's,
you meant.
it's
Yeah,
it's behind the house where Lauren Wamby and his mother live. That's all been grandfathered in years ago.
No, 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 no,
Start-
no, 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 that's not true. Let me back up. So 10104 Canyon Road East, which was clearing and grading. That was, the complaint was filed on 12/9/21, and it was basically just put into the system. No activity has happened since then. The one on Waller Road near 84th with the extensive wetland clearing behind the RV repair place is still active. And let me look that up while we're chatting here. But that's not the one you were talking about, Dawn, was it? You were talking about something else?
Yeah, there
96
is.
in Waller. Or 96 in Vickery.
Let's see, Waller Road here.
Might have to take a drive past there. And might have to contact Marty's office and see if they can do anything to prod code enforcement. Unfortunately, that's under the county executive.
Well, while Angela's looking that up, the RV business on 84th Street has been there for years and years, and I'm sure that that's grandfathered in as an
Existing use.
a non-conforming grandfathered in business, and the business that's right behind the house has been there for years and years as well. What's behind those two businesses farther north, I'm not sure what the status is on.
Yeah, I can address that if I may. The
Yeah.
RV, in fact, is illegally non-conforming. The property right directly on the corner of Waller Road and 84th Street, kind of a contractor's yard that's been there for quite a while, that's been adjudicated to be a non-conforming use.
Correct.
Property north of that, which has
Right.
been cleared,
Yes.
that's rule separator. It's not been ever declared non-conforming.
And that was actually, so the complaint for that got filed back in October, it looks like.
Is that the one with where he's
October.
painted the outside trim bright red?
Yes, it's 8611 Waller Road.
Okay, what's going on there now?
I do know that, let me see if I can find the attachments.
I mean, I drive by
Um,
there all the time and I don't see anything going on there other than just he clears the land.
Yeah, the last time I looked, the enforcement biologist had gone out to confirm that there was indeed a violation. She posted a stop work order, and there, and then I think the owner actually, then what he has to do is apply for a permit to do more work. And I remember seeing that permit application in the system somewhere months ago now, but I haven't followed it any further than that. So I don't know. I'm guessing he has to hire a wetland biologist to come out and confirm where the boundaries were, potentially, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna do a little bit more digging here.
Okay, that parcel is south of 84th on the west side of the street with the driveway going back into the back where they're storing stuff. Is that the property we're talking about, Angela?
Ask me that one more time.
Okay, it's 8611, you said, Waller Road.
Mhm.
And that would be south of 84th Street. And I
Oh
believe
yeah, there's
that's
a
on the
big
west.
contractor's yard there now that's just north of 84th.
Okay, well, we're talking two different parcels here because 8611 is south of 84th.
Yeah,
The parcels that you're referring to are north of 84th, behind the RV
Yes.
business and behind.
Yes,
Okay,
the house
so-
with the bright red trim. Yes,
It's on the east side of the road.
it's on the east side of what? If you let me share my screen, I have it up on aerial photo,
Okay.
Gabe.
Okay,
So this, where this number 2 is right here, That's, those are the two violations. There's a filling grade violation and a wetland stream flood issue. They're both active.
So
Oh,
how can
okay,
that,
so,
how can that be 8611? It's north, that's north.
yeah,
Well, let's see here. Oh, 8217, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
8217.
All right.
There
Yeah,
there
that's-
is another case that's 8611 that popped up on my popped up on here somehow. So anyway, I clicked on the wrong blue dot. So
Okay,
that's
all right.
that's the one that we're talking about. There's been very little activity.
Okay, and
Since-
Angela, when you go back to that screen, I'll have you scan down to
Mhm.
96th and east of Waller, about a block.
Mhm. So it looks like 8217, they were sent a notice in order to correct back
Okay.
in early December, and they have the appeal period ended right before Christmas. So we will see what happens with that.
Hmm.
What was your question, Dawn? Sorry, I was trying to pull that up.
Okay, just go straight south from where you are now
Mhm.
to 96th.
Okay,
Whoa, there you are.
here's 96.
Your cursor, move it to the right on the screen. Further,
Hickory.
further, another inch and then up. Okay, those are semi trailers and.
Oh, this guy, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's more than 2 years old, that issue.
Yeah. It is. I remember I talked with Yvonne Reed, the code enforcement manager, and she said there's very little they can do. I remember I talked to her at length about it and talked with Dawn Brunson, and I think I put it in an email or updated it at a meeting before, but they've closed the case just because there wasn't much they could do. I think they had contacted the property owner several times and he refused to comply, and they really didn't have any recourse. The county didn't, so.
Don't they have Superior Court as a recourse?
Yeah, this was 6/23/20. She spoke with, oh, that was me that she spoke with, and that's what the notes that she put in there from that.
Hmm.
And the only real suggestion that she had at that point was to call the building inspector or the supervisor of public works traffic, which she said aren't really going to get you very far, but that's the only thing I can offer you at this point. So,
huh.
but it looks like they closed both cases. Zoning a shoreline issue and, oh, they're both zoning a shoreline issues, yeah.
Close with resolution.
Yeah, looks like they were both. Oh, this is another caller, so, yeah. That was 3325 96th Street East. I think it's a little bit quieter now just because that house is now built and they're living there. I haven't seen as many trailers parked there as I have in the past. I don't know about.
I would think that would be a watershed issue because you have vehicles that are parked on an unimproved surface that will leak chemicals, petroleum items into the ground. I know that places where I've lived before, there have been ordinances about if you're parking a vehicle, it has to be on an improved surface.
Yeah, it's not something that code enforcement really goes after.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
there you go.
Let's see.
Can I make one
Okay.
comment?
Yeah, Dan,
Uh,
yeah.
Back in the Jim Akers days, there was a similar situation on Waller Road where they had semi trucks parked. He took the initiative to contact the Department of Ecology. The state has regulations regarding parking of semi trucks and dump trucks on watersheds. You can't do it.
Mhm.
And the State Department of Ecology went after that particular site and they removed them. You're not going to have recourse through a zoning violation with Pierce County. It's a DOE, Department of Ecology enforcement action, if that's what's going to happen. Now, I would suggest before you go run off in that tangent, you find out what's going on there now. If they've built a house, their expectations may have changed. Maybe they want to live there, and it's hard to tell. But I just thought I'd throw that in.
So the Pierce County Surface Water Management Department, they do manage stuff like this, but it's more in HOA settings, and for residential properties, it's really weak for parking and storage of vehicles. But that's also a route is their IDDE program and inspections program. But again, for their residential regulations are very weak for parking.
Yeah, it's a DOE issue, I would say.
I don't see DOE picking it up unless there's a proven discharge from the vehicles. Otherwise, it'd be pretty insignificant thing for them to spend time on, unfortunately.
I've seen it happen on Waller Road. It happened even with a lesser amount of trucks than what we see in this photograph. So that's all I'm gonna say.
If nothing else, a complaint could be filed just to have it on file as somebody's made it an issue in case in the future there'd be a need to show that there's a history. All right. So the next thing, new business. Dan, you want to talk about the Mid-County Advisory Commission in regard to some of the activities in our area?
Right, I've got a couple issues I'd like to talk about if I could have the
Yeah.
One has to do with our PO box. Who monitors our PO box? Who goes there on a regular basis to check our PO box? Who in our organization checks our PO box?
I can answer that for Bob. There are two people that have keys to the mailbox, the treasurer and the president. Those are the two people that regularly go to the PO box and check it out.
Okay, let me say this. Some time ago, we wrote a letter, of course, to the Puyallup tribe, and maybe they sent us a letter in response. Unless somebody's gone there to check it, we don't know what the response is. Now, I happen to have my personal professional PO box right next to the Summit Waller's PO box in the same building. Now, if it's appropriate, I wouldn't mind being the person who has the authority to check that PO box, because I'm up there 3 days a week to get my own mail.
Yeah, I don't see why that'd be a problem.
And it would be my responsibility, of course, to go through it. If it's junk mail, what do I do with it? If it's mail that needs to go to the board, I would bring it to the board's attention. But the worst thing that can happen is that the mailbox is not checked on a regular basis. I'm up to 3 days a week. Now, if the board wants me to check the mail, somebody needs to let me know.
Yeah, Dan brings up a very good point. There's been a couple of times since I've turned over my key to Bob, that I've gone up there and said, could I see what's in the 153? And I'll look at it, and if it's anything that pertains to anybody that needs to get it right away, then I would give you a call and give people a call and go deliver it. But on a regular basis, it's up to the president and the treasurer to do that. But Dan, you could ask them to see what the contents of that post office box is, because they only give out two keys, and you're a board member, so I would think that you would have the right to at least see what's in the box.
Well, I don't want to start telling them who I am and what I can do. What I would like to have is something of authority from the board that says that I can do that. Now, for my own box, I don't even use my key. They see me parking my truck out in the parking lot, and by the time I get in there, my mail's sitting right out on the counter. And I would like to have the same thing done with the Summit Waller Group. Bob, if you'd give me the authority to do that, if the board would, I'd be willing to take 3 days a week.
Yeah, if there's nothing in the bylaws that say that it has to be in my possession, then yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
And you can tell that most of the mail is renewals, so you can just have them put it back in the box.
Put the renewals back in the box?
Yeah, because the treasurer is going to check the mailbox for
Yeah, I
people
would
who are,
box, but I think I would want to bring it to his attention, or maybe even pick it up to get it to him. See,
I've done that too.
Russell is very busy.
I have done that. Yeah, you could do that.
Do we need a
Usually
vote?
what I would do, Dan, is if I saw some, like 2 or 3 or more obvious renewals, then I would give
Russell,
yeah, Russell, excuse me, senior moment. Russell Reed a phone call, or I would text him and tell him that there's mail for him to pick up, and
I
he
can do
usually
that.
responds right away.
I can do that. Bob, could you send me an email with your signature? I'll tell you what, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll deal with it. But I'd like to get a letter from Bob on our letterhead saying that I have the authority to look at the box and to pick up.
Can do that.
Does the board agree with that?
Yep.
We okay?
Looks like we got consensus, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Canyon Rim. Did you folks receive the copy of our brief? Did you folks get that some time ago?
Yes.
Did you all receive it? Yes? Okay, good. I received yesterday Pierce County's reply brief. Very interesting. They have admitted that they've made a mistake in the brief. Now, when you get a reply brief from the prosecuting attorney's office, this is now the official position of Pierce County. And they admit they did bad, but then they try to wiggle out of it. I'll just read you a couple excerpts here. Pierce County agrees that in finding number 17, the examiner overlooked provisions in the PCC regarding the applicable comprehensive plan and community plans to preliminary plat development. And it goes on, it says that the code clearly states that the examiner must do certain things. And then he goes on to say, quote, the examiner seemed to be unaware of this code section and assumed that the only applicable regulations were found under the county's development regulations. And then at the very end, again, after that, he tries to kind of backpedal to make it seem like it's no big deal. And then on the very last page, the prosecutor, the deputy prosecutor, goes on to say that, I find this really interesting. Petitioners, that's us, petitioners have not met their burden under LUPA, with the exception of finding number 17. The court could remand on that issue alone. So finding number 17 that's the case. So I feel pretty comfortable now with the county's position. Now, Bill Lynn, by tomorrow, the 6th, is supposed to send me his petition or his response. And it's going to, of course, it'll be much more thorny than this one. This one here is the county's position. They've admitted they made a mistake. I would move our position up from a 50-50 probability of winning to now about a 55-45 probability of winning. That's all I got to say on that. If I may continue about this letter that we're thinking about sending, Bob and I have been talking, and Gina and I, his wife, we're members of the Mid-County Advisory Commission. Now, as you all know, there are really 3 things that determine land use planning in Pierce County. It starts from the planning staff. If something's wrong with the planning staff, you've got a problem right out the gate. And then it goes to the Mid-County Advisory Commission. If you've got a problem with that commission, you've got problems right out of the gate. And if you go, then it goes to the hearing examiner. If you've got problems with the hearing examiner, you got big problems. Okay? Well, we got problems with all those. Now, Did you folks get the letter or the email that I sent about replacing the hearing examiner? Did you get that?
Long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had about maybe that much influence in getting the hearing examiner's contract not replaced. He was not renewed. We now have a new hearing examiner. A knock on wood, hopefully it's a good hearing examiner. But not only was the hearing examiner replaced, but all of his minions were replaced too. I can name them, I won't, but they're gone. And now we have a new, fresh start. Okay, so that's the good news. The bad news is we got a Mid-County Advisory Commission, which is, I'm not gonna say what it is. I will send you a video of what it is. It's out of control. And I will also send you a letter showing you that the planning staff is not including policy language that the examiner should be considering. What they say is, well, if anybody knows any other regulations that may apply, please bring it to the examiner's, attention. These planning staff members are supposed to be professional. We pay them good money to sit up there and act like they're smart. And what they do is say, well, if you know anything that should apply, let us know. That's what they put in their staff reports these days. So I have prepared a letter, Summit Waller Community Association, to the county executive, Pierce County Planning Department, or Pierce County Council. It's going to address the hearing examiner. Good news, we got a new one. And I'm going to attach a copy of that email. Number 2, Mid-County Advisory Commission, big problems. It's going to have an excerpt from that infamous video that you will soon see. And then it's also going to have some additional attachments about how planning staff plays hide and seek with the policy regulations in Pierce County. Now, Bob, is Gina, have you folks prepared that excerpt?
Yeah, she spent a lot of day, and I think she's got PTSD from going through that all again multiple times.
Well, yeah.
But
Yeah, I can understand.
yeah, and Gabe was there too. Gabe saw that meeting. She's cut it down to about an hour, which is still long, but what she's done is she's gone back in and she's provided essentially bookmarks so that for various pieces of it, you can just go directly to that section and see it. Or if you watch for a little bit and you've seen enough, you can then move on.
Okay.
So it's a little bit easier to go through to hit the highlights quickly if you want.
I'd like to get that within several days.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I'd
it's
like-
ready now. She'll get it out to you.
with your cooperation, compress it a little more. I think the attention span of people who are going to look at this is maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Hit it, get in, get out. Anyway, what Bob and I are contemplating with the cooperation of the board is a letter. And it's going to be an email type letter. And it's going to have an attachment of this video. Now, before we ever send that out, we're going to send it to the board members and you can look at it. And then you can give us thumbs up, thumbs down on it. I think it needs to be done. It's not going to offend the Pierce County Council because it's a new council and they put in place the new hearing examiner. So it's not going to offend them. The Pierce County Executive, I don't blame him for stacking the deck or rigging the Mid-County Advisory Commission. I don't think he did that intentionally or inadvertently. I think it's just the nature of the beast where all these developers, real estate people and commercial people, they flock to the Mid-County group, get on that board because they want that coveted vote that they represent the community and the community votes this way. And that influences the hearing examiner. We need to show the hearing, and the hearing examiner will be carbon copied on this too, that the Mid-County is it's a circus. It's a stacked deck, not because of the county officials who created it, but because it's the nature of the beast. And what we need to do is we need to have the meaning of the Mid-County Advisory Commission not to be based upon who wins the vote, but the substance of the minority report. Because that's who we are on that board. It's Gina and me and a couple other people. We're minorities. I mean, I'll give you here. We had a 5 quorum one day. We had a 5 quorum. It was a 3-2 vote in favor of the community. The powers that be on that commission were so outraged that they quashed the quorum. They said, "We're done. We're out of here," and because they didn't want the next thing on the agenda to have a 3-2 vote in favor of the community's position. That's what they do. They want to win, and if they can't win, they leave the meeting. Now that can't stand.
So
So-
Dan,
Yeah,
are you suggesting then that we have a special interest group that's attempting a hostile takeover of the Mid-County Advisory Commission?
no, I'm not. I'm saying that none of the elected officials intentionally created this lopsided thing. It simply is that you have certain people, real estate developers, commercial interests, developers, contractors, who feel a need to get on such a commission so that they can be there among the quorum, to have the quorum vote to do something that purports to represent the community's opinion, when in fact it represents just a few developers' opinions. We need to show the county and the hearing examiner that that's all it is. It's not the vote of the community. It's simply a group of people who have taken over, I guess, the Mid-County Advisory Commission, and it's a vote for them. It's not the community's mandate. And I think we need to put that together. It really doesn't do any good to talk anymore about it. You will get a draft copy of the letter within a couple of weeks, and you can take a look at it. I think you will be concerned.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
I hope I didn't get too worked up there. It kind of irritates me because I've seen it personally. I'm in the hot seat. I'm dealing with these people, and you just have to kind of sit there and be meek and just because you can't outvote them when you only got maybe one or two people with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Dan. I've known and could see this when I first joined this group. And also I would go so far as to say is that the park board advisory committees are made of the same type of individuals.
Well, you know, when you see this video, you're going to have to ask yourself, what normal person who's a homeowner in the community in their right mind would want to be on this commission? Now, of course,
Exactly.
I'm on it. That makes the question. But I have to tell you, when you see this video, you aren't going to believe it. You
No,
won't-
I do.
He's
anyway-
not lying. It was a circus. I was
yeah.
I was stunned this was going on.
Yeah. Now,
Point of order. And then they'd want to make a proposal or something. It's totally not a point of order, but you heard that over and over again.
oh yeah. And one of these, well, I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay, we need
All
to
I will
move
say is
on.
this. I will say this. This is very easily correctable. Because when the hearing event is going on, he's not going to say, well, you know, the Mid-County, you know, it's going to basically, it's going to prevent them from having the influence that they think they need and want. It's correctable. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. And the last thing on the agenda, and I just put this on here more as a, think about it sort of thing. What we want to, anything that we might want to try to accomplish, push for in the coming year. One that's been on my mind after reading through the latest planning department document for the Mid-County area is that there were some policy, or not policy, but there are some statements in it about developing certain, say, regulations, codifying certain things that the county's never done. They're supposed to be working with community parties to flesh out some of the policy documents. That hasn't happened. And I think it would be good for us to push the county to get that going so that we can then avoid some of the situations that we've been facing currently with Canyon Rim and other properties in the past. So that's an example.
Yeah.
And
I say
if
something-
you've got some ideas, now would be fine, or it's something that we can take up at our next meeting.
I think we need to take that up in the next several meetings. There are they're more than loopholes. They're just glowing empty spots in the regs that leave us vulnerable in certain areas. And we'll discuss those further.
in particular after the hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
So one thing that we did not do for 2021 was come up with our list of goals for the year. We did it in 19 and 20, and well, I guess I don't, at least I don't have the final version in my files from 2021. So I know that we, in the newsletter article, had some areas that we were going to be focusing on in 2021. And so I guess maybe that would be our starting point. But do you all feel like we need to do another round of goals for 2022 or things that we'd like to accomplish? Or are you guys beyond that and moving on to other things?
Let's work on 2021 and get it done, and it'll morph into 2022. We're not there yet.
And
Right.
well, yes, it's been a weird time. And maybe pare down the 2021 goals to what are some things that are definitely actionable now that we can take care of? And then look at what are some long-term things.
Yeah, me personally, so I'll let you know, I love checklists, I love to-do lists, I like plans, check boxes, things to check, as we move things through. I'm rigid and very structured that way. So I love to set goals and then check them off as they get done. Other people are way more fluid and kind of, let's just feel this out and see how it goes. And I totally respect that as well. So if you want, I can send out some of the high points from that 2021 article, and then just we can noodle on that. And if people think, yeah, it's a good idea, let's come up with a couple and stick with it, and we'll work on it in 2022. That's fine. And if not, I'll defer to the board.
I think that's a good idea, Angela, and I think the concrete sequentials on our board will be happy to the checklist, and the abstract randoms will.
Yes.
Yeah, Angela, send it out. We'll take a look at it.
Okay.
We do have some challenges, with the Omicron and
Sure.
whether to meet, continue to meet via Zoom or in person. Are we going to have a newsletter? Are we going to have a general membership and community meeting sometime this coming year in 2022? Are we going to meet at Dan Hare's house for refreshments once a week?
Is he going to let us through the gate?
Tear down that gate.
Maybe there should be
Here.
a little insurrection at Dan's house.
Just a tailgate party at his gate.
Well, those people who are breaking into the mailboxes along Waller, maybe they can open up the gate for us.
Yeah, the surge of that up and down Waller Road, they got one of my neighbors. Kind of feel sorry for them, actually.
Oh, and Jen's gone. I meant to ask her about the knife, what she did with the knife.
Oh, that she found on her walk. Yeah.
Yeah, the $5 knife, maybe. Okay.
Maybe it's been incorporated into her cutlery.
I don't know what you could cut with that thing other than breaking your own skin.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, okay?
Mhm.
On that video.
Okay. I'm going to be gone by about 9. I have to be over in Tacoma for something at 10, so I've got a couple of stops along the way. So maybe around noon or so, or you could just give Gina a call.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you have her number?
I want to talk to her about, well, I want to see the video, first of all.
Yeah.
There we can talk primarily.
Well, what we can do, we can make up a DVD and I could drop it off, and then you could watch it and say, here's what you think could be cut and here's what we need to keep, and then we can cut it down farther.
Yeah, is it possible, ultimately, this letter is going to have an email attachment of the video.
Yeah.
Because I want this letter also to go to the Mid-County Advisory Commission.
Oh, yeah, I understand, Dan. It's just a matter of
Staff.
We just need to have you take a look at to see what you think could be cut out, because it's really tough when cutting out parts removes context for it getting worse and worse and worse.
Staff told me that they will electronically send to all the commission members this letter with the video,
Uh-huh, okay,
but it has to be electronic.
yeah,
One possible idea is to keep the longer version intact and this do a summary version in addition to, so you can
Yeah.
watch the shortened thing just so you can see the highlights of what your point is. But if you really want the detail, you can look at the longer one.
I have the long version on a thumb drive in my safe.
well, the entire thing, yeah. Oh, it was quite something.
Okay, folks,
I
time to
move
go.
that we adjourn.
Yeah, anything for the good of the order?
I move that we adjourn.
I second it.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
See you guys next time.
See you next month.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Good night.